Good morning, everybody. Ryan Hodge here. Hopefully you're doing very, very well. And I just wanted to see if anybody can comment, just that they can hear me okay. I'm sure that you can see me based on my screen. But if you can hear me okay, please just comment that we're good to go, and then we'll get started. And welcome to a very quick webinar this morning that's designed to serve and support you in all areas of business as we roll through quarter two 2024. Can you guys hear me okay? Sweet. So here we are. And again, it is always an honor to connect and serve in any space, whether it's live, whether it's in person, conferences, whether it is, at an event, whether it is inside of my brokerage or here in the digital world of webinar. And I haven't done one of these for a little while. This is not going to take too long today. I wanted to connect, serve, support, and just kind of take you through a little bit of what I get to see as a privilege, leading a number of others in an over 100-person company. And of course, in the speaking and coaching realm, that is always an honor to do. So I'd love to, hear where you're at in the comments, or if you're not comfortable, by all means, send me a message. I love engaging with fellow realtors. I love hearing, about the struggles, the challenges, but also the successes. And I'm hearing a lot right now in terms of just what's going on inside of our various marketplaces across North America. And I think it's a really, really good time to reflect on where you're at in current space and time, and then of course where we want to go next. And a lot of people come to me, and especially in the last couple years, where we had record-setting real estate years where, quite frankly, it was pretty easy to sell a house, and it was pretty easy to get the job done and be the hero. It was pretty easy as pricing went through the roof to get out there, sell some real estate, commissions went higher. But all of a sudden, as the market shifted, a lot of things happened. And when people did not keep looking to build momentum, very, very quickly, their business started to suffer. And I have had folks that have been in this industry for decades that have reached out to me, whether they are coaching with me or whether they were just colleagues and friends, people inside of my own organization that have come to me and said, I just don't know what's going on. I just don't seem to have that momentum state that I once had. Things just aren't going the way that they once were. And I think it's a really good opportunity to reflect in that, because we can always look to make improvements. We can always look to get better. And ultimately, that is really the path, not perfection, but a little bit of progress. And that's what I'm hoping this short webinar does for you today. So how to revive your real estate career. So who this is for? Ultimately, this is for anybody that wants to build momentum in their business. This is for folks that are brand new and may have gotten started and are a little bit, flustered in what's going on with the market or the initial stages of their career. But this is also for those that are seasoned veterans or those that have been doing this for a little while, that are looking to make some changes and evaluate where they're at in current space and time, where they need to go in order to create the results that they desire and deserve, and ultimately what it is that they're really after, and looking at how to establish that connectivity with themselves, with their clients, and take an overarching look at, what it is that they want to create. This is not going to be a pitch on coaching. This is not going to be a recruiting webinar. I will certainly give an opportunity for access to me more, but most of you that are on here know where to find me. So you can certainly connect, on my social media, whether it's through Facebook, Instagram at Ryan Hodge Official. I've got lots of free resources. I've got 52 weeks of free coaching tips in my Instagram bio. So there's lots of places to get free information. But this is for those that want to make some change. This is also for those that understand that action is what's going to ultimately lead to results. See, the law of intention says that in order for something to happen, we have to direct our energy somewhere. That is just the way that it goes. We've got to put our focus somewhere. But the law of action says that unless we take immediate action and take the appropriate steps, nothing happens unless something moves. So intentions and actions must align. If you want a result, you have to take some action. If you want massive results, it always requires massive amounts of action. There's no other way. So this is for those people that truly understand that. This is for those people that know that this is not a fly by the seat of our pants business, that it's quick success overnight. It's not for those that, think that this is going to happen just because you go onto a webinar and your whole business or whole life's going to change. This is for those that are truly committed. Again, this is ultimately not for training junkies. So if you're here and you constantly go to every webinar, every seminar, read every book, order every course, and you don't take appropriate action, this isn't going to be for you. Okay. And it's very, very important to recognize that. This is not for those that, talk about theory and hype. It's for those that actually take committed action steps. And it's crucial that we understand that. And I have a very hardline message. This is not for those that just want the pat on the back or just a point in the right direction in terms of what might happen. This is for those that want concrete results, that really look to establish market share in their relative market and real estate environment, and those that want high levels of success. See, you can go on to YouTube any day of the week in this day and age, 24 hours, 7 days a week, and you can find a lot of principles, theories, tactics on how to become a highly productive agent. The training is there for you, and if you take action with a lot of it is going to work, and you're going to have phenomenal results. But if you don't take the appropriate action, and you just constantly stay in the space of observation, then nothing's really going to come to fruition other than getting some really good ideas that you don't implement or execute upon. And that is truly critical right now. So if you're just into training, I'm going to suggest that I'm not giving a ton of tactics today. I'm giving a very, very clear message, a little bit of mindset, a little bit of opportunity in terms of, where to look at your own business and maybe where to go next in terms of what I know is the great catalyst to change for myself and for many of the others that I'm privileged to work with. So one of the things that I think is really, really important right now is understanding where you are at in current space and time, but ultimately moving back to where did you come from? And I want to get clear on this. So in my own example, I share that I was born and raised in London, Ontario, Canada. I went to high school here, university here. I have a degree in sociology and psychology with an emphasis on human behavior. Human behavior and the study and ongoing study of human behavior has probably been one of the greatest elements and aspects to my perceived success inside of business. And when we start to reflect on some of the things that we've learned, even before we were in real estate, whether you're an agent, whether you're a team leader, whether you're a broker owner, you can start to understand a little bit more about yourself. That's going to get you some reflection space on where that may apply to what it is that you want to create now. The other thing that I want to reference is that after university, I was in high-level corporate sales for about 10 years. And that was a phenomenal sales experience because it was pretty hardcore, cutthroat, competitive sales where I was flying all over and driving all over. And I ultimately decided to get into real estate. But if you do not have any decent or relevant sales background, then it's something to consider as far as, what kind of sales training you may need to get. And I'm going to share this transparently. A lot of the people that I've trained over the year inside of my organization, the realty firm, which again, we are 115 agents in 5 different markets. A lot of people are amazing people, great intentions, They understand that they're going to have to look at, marketing themselves through social media or getting into, some type of digital marketing or print or branding, things that we all learn. And of course, now we see more than ever in the great big age of social media. But a lot of people don't have any formal sales training. They don't know about, the art of objective, sales training in terms of objection handling, in terms of, sales and actually looking at, how to close, how to convert, how to navigate that actual sales process, even the negotiation part of it. And I find that there's a lot of key places in a person's professional foundation that need to be explored. And so that might be something to consider. And I'm going to share with you, no matter what brokerage, what brand, wherever you might be right now, I guarantee that there is some facet of sales training that you could take that's going to be beneficial when you're in the field, in the trenches, and you need to get to work in navigation. Because right now, what we know for certain is that this market has shifted in terms of more of a stagnant or buyer's market, where the listings just aren't popping off the shelf like they were 2 or 3 years ago. We are seeing a little bit of an uptick in activity in my local market, but market to market, it is still much different than it was in 2021 and 2022. There's some consideration in there because we're going to need to enhance our skill sets when it comes to the sales process, when it comes to price reductions, when it comes to objection handling with our sellers. And I'm seeing it already, a lot of listings that are starting to expire, a lot of frustrated clients because the process isn't in place from a sales dynamic, that people are looking at, their business and going, what's going on? But they haven't learned some of the foundational skills that are absolutely crucial for success. And so these are some of the things that we start to explore and look at in terms of where we come from, evaluating the foundation that we do have, and starting to understand where we want to go next with, our business. Everybody wants to skyrocket to building teams or starting companies or growing downlines or, being that next influencer, unless we have a proper foundation built. And most of you, if you followed along with me and maybe watch some of my other, webinars or live seminars where I talk about the 4 pillars of real estate productivity, know that foundation is absolutely critical. So when I start looking at, where we've come from, exploring that foundation is critical. Exploring our own human behavior and how we interact with people is important as well. The number one thing that people always say gets in the way of the happiness, freedom, and results they desire in real estate is typically answered by time. And I go through a lot of different time studies and, I just completely dismiss the time management theory that's out there with all the people that are training on it because it's easy to train on. But I definitely think that the choices that we make inside of our time are critical. The number 2 answer is always fear. Not only the fear of failure, but the fear of success. And so understanding some of our, psychological makeup and evaluating, what might be getting in the way from that perspective is also very, very critical. Anyways, I digress. Fast forward to 10 years in 10 years in corporate sales, and I got into real estate. For those of you that know my small little story, I was licensed in 2008. I started with the wonderful world of RE/MAX, and I was fortunate to sell over 200 homes or 200 transactions in my first 2.5 years in the business. That's documented with the support of 1 administrative assistant, 1 buyer agent at the time, and ultimately that allowed me to catapult into the number 1 RE/MAX team in my marketplace for a number of years, creating a coaching company. And ultimately, I have now spoken to over 25,000 agents all over North America, even into Europe, primarily on the principles of high productivity, specific social media funnel building for success, both in the agent space and the team leader and broker owner space. I work with all 3. And ultimately, the mindset and personal/spiritual development that I believe is the greatest catalyst to change in terms of creating what it is that you desire, both inside and outside of real estate. After 5 years with the largest team in my marketplace, I decided to open up my own independent company, the realty firm. Again, we have over 100 agents in 5 different markets, highly, highly productive people. And I share that in any of those spaces, I have had just as much failure as success. And success is kind of a funny thing. It's really a toxic replacement for fulfillment. But when you look at the perceived success of, high volume real estate, one of the fastest growing independent companies in a country, a coaching and speaking business, along all 3 of those platforms, I have seen great highs and the ultimate of lows. So I know that about myself. I know that there are places and spaces that I constantly need to learn in. I constantly need to move back to. And I think that we can all reflect on what we learn along the way. See, every single thing that we do is a choice. Every choice that we make has an outcome. And every single outcome is an opportunity to learn, grow, and evolve our business, evolve personally, and evolve spiritually. And when we start looking at that, I think a lot of times we get amnesia in terms of where we actually came from, what we've learned along the way, and maybe where we need to apply some of that in order to rebuild or get back on track with the momentum that we desire to create. And that's really where I think a lot of people are missing the mark right now, because ultimately people get into a phase where they think they know it all. And we never arrive anywhere. There's a great study called the Teachability Index, which is something you can Google and you can search up for yourself. And the Teachability Index is a study, and it's a study of our willingness to do 2 things. One, how well do we learn from the experience of others rather than just our own? And how well do we implement changes in thought and action? See, if we want to be in this business, the real estate environment, we have to be constantly evolving, adapting, and changing. Why is that? Because our businesses, the industry is, right now more than ever, the landscape is evolving, adapting, and changing. And I've shared it. I've shared my perspective in public spaces that I believe a great shift to our industry is coming. And if we are not prepared, if we are not the most highly competent, relevant agents in our marketplace, relevant team leaders, relevant broker owners, I think that we're going to find ourselves in challenging, deep, deep waters. And my purpose is just to support people, leading, serving, and inspiring them into the growth that they desire. And I think that there's some great reflections, hence this Q2 webinar on how to revive your business if things aren't going very, very well. So that's a little bit about where I came from, where I share in terms of, where we're at right now. Right now, I'm in a space of reflection in terms of where do I want to go next? My question to you is, where are you right now? What it is that you want, is it that you want to create? Where do you feel that there are maybe some missing gaps? Where do you feel that there might be some places and spaces that along the way you could have done a little bit better, or you could revisit and re-implement? See, everybody wants new. They want big, shiny objects. They want to have, everything basically handed to them. They want to, look at the easy path. But in this business, it does not exist. This business requires the ultimate level of commitment. My son, whose prom is today, which ages me amazingly, is 18 years old. And last night, he was talking to me a little bit about the business that I'm in. I was sharing with him, some of the things that, we're going through as an organization, some of the things that we're looking to do to improve places and spaces that, I had a great, level of success with, but also challenges with. And he was asking me about the time, involved with real estate, and that he's got a little bit of interest in the business. But ultimately, what I always say to them is I hope that they forge their own path. Real estate's an option for, kids, my kids for sure, but I'd like to see them do other things first. Anyways, what I shared with them, because I think a lot of people think that, real estate agents make a ton of money. I think that, most don't. We know that most agents live actually below the poverty line or earn below the poverty line. most agents don't understand that the time commitment involved, especially when you first get started, is absolutely massive. And there is a trade-off. And there's a trade-off when you really explore our opportunity, which quite frankly is to make doctor money or beyond. And if people think that they're not going to have to spend a lot of time, energy, and work to do that, if they want to go to that super, super high level, they are delusional. If people think that it's going to be just a walk in the park to make six figures in any business, again, they're delusional. And so I think that when I ask the question, where are you right now? One, are you on track or are you not, would be a key question. Two, am I being realistic about my goals? And I'm not the right person to ask about, what you can expect in a real estate business, because at the time when I did sell that much real estate my first couple of years, that was unprecedented industry-wide from all things that I know. And there's been lots of people along the way that have sold way more real estate now in short periods of time. There's lots of people that have sold on a way, way higher level than I ever have and probably ever will. But ultimately, I can share that in the realm of all that's possible, you can create whatever it is that you desire in a short period of time. But again, I move back to, if you want a result, you have to take action. If you want massive results, there's no other way other than to take massive amounts of action. And that doesn't mean that we need to sacrifice our quality of life entirely. It doesn't mean that we need to, miss out on family events or things like that. But there's going to be times where we need to dedicate ourselves to our career path. There are times where if we have priorities like family and sporting events, and I've coached all my kids and done all that stuff and never missed games or tournaments or vacations or things like that, there were times where I had to evaluate where I was at, where I wanted to go, but what needed to happen. For example, I do wake up between 4 and 5 a.m. because I know that I can get more done than the average person in the first couple hours of the day versus, the rest of the 8 hours before my kids get home from school. And that's a choice that I make to continue to operate at a super, super highly productive level while maintaining my quality of life. And do I get tired? Sure, I'm a human being. But you start to evaluate, you start to find the hacks that are necessary both in business and life in order to create that level of productivity. And that doesn't mean that that's necessarily what you need to do. I don't recommend that everybody wakes up, as early as I do. But it's understanding what's going to work for you. Where are you right now? What's working, what's not? And then just making some tiny decisions that are going to lead to really, really strong results. A mentor of mine always said, tiny hinges swing big doors. Tiny hinges swing big doors. And I can't stress that enough. The small incremental choices that we make on a day-to-day basis add up to tremendous results over time. But everybody wants it right now. What we need to look at is focusing on those activities, not the results. In other words, attaching to the process, detaching from the outcome. So when you look at many of the places in terms of where you're at in current space and time, I think it's also important to revisit places and spaces that you had success in the past. Places and spaces that you've had success or fulfillment in the past. And I'll share, there's a couple words that I like to use to describe this. It's called reverse manifestation. Reverse manifestation. And what reverse manifestation is it's going backwards in time and finding those areas where you were at your best or as close to your best as possible and tapping into that, evaluating that. There are so many areas of my real estate sales business that I look back to and say, gosh, I dropped the ball on that. When I was doing, a certain level of prospecting myself, even in the brokerage, a certain level of, recruiting and enrollment at times, a certain level of, events for agents. You can really look at these as key performance indicators from the past and whether or not it's showing up now in a positive or a negative consequence, okay? And so when I look at these things, and I've had to look at these things, it immediately starts to tell me, are there things that I used to do when I was so energetic about this business, when I was so grateful to be inside of the business in real estate, especially when we're new? The world is our oyster. We've got so much opportunity ahead of us. And after a number of years in this business, which we know, if we're not careful, can chew us up and spit us out, it's really, really, understanding where you had success in the past. Where can you revisit some of those things? If you like doing them, great. But if you needed to do them, sometimes we need to go back to some basics as part of our foundation. Now, I used to do a ton of open houses, a ton of cold calls, converting leads, all day long, like all sorts of different stuff that took a ton of time. And some of them I enjoyed more than others, but a lot of them along the way, I certainly moved away from as I started to scale, as I started to team build, as I started the brokerage. But there's areas that I can still look at right now that if I just do a few of those things on a very, very small level compared to what I used to do, I can immediately start to see success come from them. And if you follow along with me, some of the things that I'm doing right now are very sales focused because I am somebody that believes that in order to teach others how to sell real estate at a high level, I need to do the same. I need to be in the trenches. I need to have my, feet on the floor, be in the mix in order to teach others. And as long as I have the capacity to do that and to facilitate, the experience that an agent desires inside of my organization, that is really what my main focus is right now. I am very selective in terms of where I go out and speak, what rooms I speak in, who I speak with, because I think that right now there's so much nonsense in the industry in terms of theory, in terms of people that have never sold a house. And it's not to say they're not great human beings. It's not to say that they aren't going to lend some value, but I want to learn from people that have had tremendous success in any area that I desire growth in. See, there's a key saying that you hear in the mainstream media called the law of association. And the law of association says that we become like an average of the 5 people that we surround ourselves with the most. And that's great in theory. I think that you can look at that for, the places and spaces that you spend time, the people that you spend time with. But ultimately, very rarely do we hear the word ascension. Ascension. Ascension is finding other people that have had more success than you have, more fulfillment, created more of the desired results than you ever have, and learning from those in terms of ascending with them. And I think it's something that's really missing the mark in the age of the influencer, where everybody can teach on anything. They can do it for free. They can launch webinars. They can get on social media every day. And I do all of these things, but there's a lot of things that I do that I have had specific documented results with that I find is challenging for me when I watch a lot of people giving advice, especially to our real estate population. Good people that are either tuning in or they are paying to learn, and they've never had the result that these people come to learn about. I take issue with that, and it's a different message. I'm sure it rubs people a lot of the times the wrong way. But for me, I am here to serve and support others. I'm going to give my truth. And I believe that that is ultimately a major, factor right now, and where a lot of people are not necessarily in an attraction phase, they're in a distraction phase. And distraction ultimately is something that we want to move away from as quickly as possible. So we need to revisit some of those, key areas, key times, key places that we had some success with, and that we can ultimately look to just evaluate, what can I put back in place right now? Do you need to do a few more open houses? Do you need to get face-to-face and belly-to-belly with a few more of your clients? Do you need to pick up the phone? Do you need to maybe integrate a lead generation strategy of sorts? Do you need to connect and engage with some different people that used to be, a key part of your foundation, your circle? That is important. And so evaluating some of this in terms of what has been, desirable in the past that had an impact on business and life is really, really important. It's also going to teach you and I about what I call our core competencies. Visiting our core competencies, the things that we are really, really good at, I think is absolutely critical in order to build momentum. Core competencies for me, I will share that, some of my core competencies involve: one, speed to implementation. I was a frustration for most real estate coaching companies when I started, and I coached with them all, and a lot of them were great. But I would take a 1-year program and I would implement it in about 90 days. And then the coaching company would be saying, well, where do we go next? Because they didn't really have anything for me to do. And I would be saying, well, why am I going to keep paying you? Because ultimately, I've put everything in place that you've offered. It's all integrated and we're, getting great results from it. Thank you, but I need to move on. Speed to implementation is something that we can look at on a very, very micro level as well. Everybody that comes into training often, gets great ideas. They get revved up even today. They get, an idea of what they're going to do next. And more often than not, they leave that webinar, they leave that seminar, and they don't take any action. Consider what your speed to implementation is and think about one thing that you could do today that maybe you learned from here or anywhere else and put that into place. And see if you can do that again next week as well. Or, whenever that first thing that's actually integrated and put into place happens. That was a core competency of mine, and it continues to be. Finding ideas that I believe will work and implementing and integrating so that action is taken right away. Another core competency of mine is conversion. Whether I was in open houses, whether I was prospecting, whether I was working my database, whether I was, utilizing my online lead generation platforms, which 16 years later, I still utilize. I watch agents or coaches or trainers out there that say that online leads are crap. I can tell you 100% that each and every year I have a multiple six-figure ROI on my lead generation platform all day long. I would dispute anybody that says they're crap, but my core competency was evaluating the system, but ultimately the skill involved with conversion, which I trained and practiced on and was coached on and relentlessly pursued how I could get better at that. Core competencies of mine were understanding, what type of leader I wanted to be. And whether you're an individual agent or you're a broker owner of a massive organization, we are all leaders inside of this business. If somebody is asking us to sell their property, they're asking us to be the leader in the biggest decision that they're going to make in their lifetime. And so that is some key consideration to take in terms of the type of leadership that you are. I was once in a business partnership with somebody that was a top-down leader. And at one point, I was more of a top-down leader as well. Top-down leadership means here's the way it is, this is the way it's going to go, and just go do it. And there's no other way. Over time, I established that I was, really looking to become more and evolve my thought leadership, thinking outside the box, considering different perspectives, encouraging that others do the same, that work within my organization or that, do coach with me. Thought leadership for me is a core competency and something that I've continued to study and evolve with. My spouse, on the other hand, is more of a family style leader. And the family style leadership was drastically missing from our real estate brokerage's culture 6-7 years ago. And when she came into the picture and integrated that part of it, all of a sudden you've got a much more competent leadership because there's a combination. And you also then begin to have a much more thriving, abundant, and collaborative culture, which we believe we have now. Is it perfect? No, but we've made a lot of progress. And so these are the things that you can start to evaluate for yourself as well in terms of what are the core competencies that you have? Do you have specific gifts that you've identified? Because everybody has gifts. Everybody has skill sets. Everybody has valuable tools and treasures and resources that ultimately they can take and implement into their business. They can take and implement into any area of life. And I challenge you to consider what those are for you. Good news and bad news. Bad news first. Empirical data shows that 2/3 of our business should be written by June 30th. So June 30th, 2024 is a key date to mark down. Reason for that is everybody has great, Novembers and Decembers from time to time, but empirical data in the history of organized real estate says that 2/3 of our business should be written in the first 6 months of the year based on the spring market in order to achieve the goal that we desired. So if your goal for 2024 was to earn $100,000, you want to have about $65,000, $66,000 written by June 30th. Understanding that right now is very important to say, am I on track or not in terms of business? Good news. Change doesn't happen over time. Circumstances do. Change happens in the instant that you make a decision to start moving in a different direction. Change happens when you make a choice. And the instant that you start moving in a different direction, good things are going to happen. So what I share for you is that if you're not on track right now, understand this. The activities that you do now, starting today, or whatever you have been doing, if you are doing an appropriate amount of action that should correlate with the result that you desire, those results should start showing up 90 days from now. Most agents have way more than enough time than they think to get back on track and achieve the goal that they desire, but it's going to require commitment. And so understanding that 90-day rule, especially right now, with 45 days basically left until that key target of the end of June, is crucial. And I'm hoping that it gives you a little bit of inspiration and a little bit of motivation to maybe take a little bit more action on where you need to. If you are somebody that does open houses, do you need to do more? Do you need to do a better quality open house, which is a lower price point, good curb appeal, newer to the market listings to get more buyers in terms of, that funnel from an open house? If you are, just doing online lead generation, do you need to do more calls versus a lot of these automations where we're automating ourselves right out of the business? Do you need to do more texting actual calls on the phone versus text and email? There's a lot of places and spaces that we can look at in order to really get back on track. And I highly encourage you to just simply focus on what is proven and predictable, okay? Again, there are a lot of profiteers out there in the real estate environment, people that have never sold a house, people that are just in this and want your money. I believe that coaching should really only do about 5 to 10% of that person's revenue, because if they were really great or really that great at, what they were teaching on, they probably wouldn't just abandon that. Okay, so think about that from who you're learning from. And ultimately, so much stuff is being presented to us on a daily basis at rapid speeds through the reels, through scrolling, through all of it, that doesn't actually work. And I hate to say it, we've got to be a little bit more discerning on what does. Proven and predictable strategies, such as open houses, such as your sphere of influence, such as online lead generation, such as colder prospecting, such as really getting, the right form of marketing if you're doing certain forms of branding out to the masses. All 5 of those platforms that I just mentioned are proven and predictable because you can track and measure them. If you can't track and measure something, how can you possibly improve? How can you possibly look at, if I do X amount of activity, I'm going to get Y in terms of a result? These are critical metrics to understand. And a great friend of mine, Joshua Smith from the US, always says the path is in the math. So if you don't have this mathematically formulated right now, I encourage you to get some support to do so. You've probably, if you watched along with me, had me take you through the actual metrics, which I don't have enough time to do today, in terms of every one of those strategies that I mentioned, how to achieve $100,000 in the next calendar year, and the exact activity that we need to reverse engineer in order to do that. So those are some key metrics to explore. If you can't track and measure the activity that you're doing, you can't possibly improve it. Okay, so think about that a little bit more as you move along. One of the strategies I'm going to give to you today, and I will be launching another webinar, is my revised Facebook funnel. Now, there's an old version on my YouTube channel, which you can certainly go to. It's under my Instagram link tree as well. But the Facebook funnel is the way that I systematically, did over 30 sales as part of my 100 plus sales per year for a number of years, systematically messaging through Facebook, which is free and organic. Now, there's a lot that goes along with building a funnel to that, but it is the easiest way to generate business. It is how I built my real estate business, compounding that with my sphere of influence and doing online leads, open houses, and some of the other stuff that I mentioned. It is how I've helped many, many people get up to the multiple 6 and even 7-figure businesses in their own careers quickly. It is also how I built my real estate company and how I've helped team leaders and broker owners, really understand the principles behind recruiting and enrollment by utilizing free strategies that don't cost a lot of money, that are proven and predictable. And so one of the things that I mentioned right now, and I've talked to a lot of people, is evaluating your Facebook list, okay, or your Instagram list, wherever your largest audience is, and giving it a good scrub. And what that scrub means is that you're taking that list, and it is a process. I did this earlier this year, and I've got 5,000 people on my Facebook list, a couple hundred less now, but I evaluated who should be on that list and who shouldn't. Are they people that would buy, sell, or refer me a real estate transaction, or are they not? Are they people that I niche down or need to niche down and bucket into categories like my agent-to-agent referrals, my key referral sources, the key clients that send me multiple referrals a year, or perhaps it used to? And guess what? When I scrubbed that list, a key performance indicator of mine was that I've really dropped the ball. I dropped the ball with people that I was having great contact and engagement with in my own sales business. I dropped the ball with people I was having great exchanges with, from those that were considering joining my organization, those that were coming to events and coaching with me. And it happens. Okay, life happens, situations happen, time happens. But getting back to our database, the bread and butter, the gold of our business is crucial. And in probably the next 30 days, I'm going to launch another webinar, probably some live seminars as well, on exactly what I've done with that over the years in terms of a revised Facebook funnel presentation, the exact strategies, tactics, tips, scripts that I use to enroll and engage with my audience, along with some really new fundamentals on really how to attract and engage in today's internet empowered consumer environment. But I would start looking at scrubbing your list wherever that might be. I think Facebook's probably the best one. You might look to Instagram, but Facebook, I still think you're going to have a little bit more opportunity in terms of the messaging that you send and the observation of that messaging, but I'll get to that later. The other thing that I want you to really understand is stop trying to be people that you're not, okay? You have so much smoke and mirrors in this industry right now in terms of people that are acting like they're somebody that they're not, people that are just giving sales breath with their constant posts. What I want you to recognize is you want to understand your own client avatar. And the best way to do that is to understand yourself, okay? Understand who you are as a human being, who you are as a real estate professional first. And that's going to be a great catalyst to creating the ideal client avatar for yourself. The people that you want to work with, the people that are like-minded, the people that are aligned with your energy. And focusing on, raising that energy up is crucial. And when we start to determine who our client avatar is, we start to enjoy this business more. We start to enjoy who it is that we're working with more. We start to look at the right people showing up versus just working with anybody and everybody that's exhausting, frustrating, and creates some of that career resentment. And I'll speak to a lot more of this in future sessions as well. But really start to think about who are the types of people that you want to work with. Are you focused on them? Are you focused on yourself that you're going to attract that type of avatar? And then start fundamentally building out systems, processes, strategies, and really focusing on those people, because those are the people that we really want in our business and, quite frankly, in our lives. And we've got to do what most will not. You saw last year, brokerage to brokerage across North America, agents faltered by about 30 to 50% in just about every case. Doesn't matter what brokerage it was, sales were down 30 to 50%. This is really important to understand because the real estate environment will always change. You don't have to change what your commitment level is. Most did not make any changes, but those that thrived took their commitments to an incredibly high level. Those that thrived understood that it was going to take more work. Those that are thriving right now are working at a very, very high level. They are dedicating themselves to everything that I've just discussed on a deep, deep personal and professional level, understanding themselves, committing to their core competencies, doing some really true reflection, doing the things that most will not. Most are just waiting for change. Most are just waiting for something to happen. Most are just waiting for an opportunity. Right now, we have to do what most will not, and that's create opportunities. This is an action-oriented business. This is a contact sport type of business. And it is important right now that we do what most will not. And those, just like any market in the history of real estate, that take the appropriate action, pick up more market share in a challenging market than in a thriving market. So consider that. Everybody should know this. In the most challenging of markets in the history of real estate, that's where certain agents, professionals, broker owners, and team leaders will pick up more market share while everybody else waits for the shift. Don't be that person. You must do what most will not. And you've got to focus on your commitments. 7 steps of commitment. What's your commitment? Are you keeping your commitment? Could you have kept your commitment? What got in the way? What did you learn from this experience? Do you want to recommit? And appreciation for the commitments that you made and kept, because self-appreciation tends to expand. What we celebrate tends to expand. So think about those 7 steps when you're evaluating where you're at. Did you keep your commitment so far in 2024? If you didn't, that's okay. But what is getting in the way? Because I know in all that's possible, you could keep that commitment. You could keep the commitment to your goal. Ultimately, the only thing that usually gets in the way of our success is ourselves. It's not the market. It's not what's going on at home. It's not the deal that's going south or the nasty client. We make the choices that get in the way, or we take a lack of action, and that gets in the way of the results that we desire. So thinking about these things is absolutely critical as we look at, how committed am I? And I phrased it when I first jumped on this webinar with you this morning. This is not for those that just come here that aren't committed, that want to hear me speak, or just, learn something new and not do anything with it. We've got to take action if we want a result. Okay. So many times I get people that, contact me about, joining the realty firm or coaching with me. And they think that, they can come up and, see me speak and train and, get all the free information possible. And that's not a problem. But if they don't do anything with that information, nothing happens. And oftentimes people look at coaching and they aren't prepared to commit whatsoever in terms of a financial commitment. I'm going to commit time. There's a fair exchange involved with that. And so I think that when we look at that, and it might sound a little bit blunt, you've got to look at, what time are you willing to spend and what action are you willing to take if you really want to create a result? Goals are nice in theory, but commitment means we're executing and implementing. There's a great big difference between goals, which just means that, we're trying, commitment, which means we're actually doing the work. And work works. Okay. It's crucial right now that we get to work. Are you getting in the right rooms? Okay. Are you constantly getting in the right rooms with the right people in order to ascend to where you want to go next? I can't tell you how important that is. I can't share enough that you can instantly start moving in a different direction if you get around the right people, whether it's in an accountability group inside of your own company or inside of anything that you are looking to do, whether it is in a dedicated, coaching relationship or, mentor type relationship. Getting in the right rooms is absolutely critical right now. I don't believe that anybody is going to make somebody productive. I believe that as a leader or as a coach or somebody that trains, I can create an environment of productivity. And so start looking at, where are you at right now with your own real estate company or, the mentors that you're aligned with or the circle that you're associating with? Are they people that have had the results that you desire or can, support you in your own commitments and your own accountability to achieving your goals in the rest of 2024 and beyond? And a lot of people come to me and say, my brokerage offers me nothing, or my last coach or my last mentor did nothing for me. It's not that they're not doing anything for you, but are you aligned with their energy, number one? And are you actually taking the action that's required from what they're saying to do? Now, there's a lot of people that aren't going to offer you what it is that you desire because it's just on a different wavelength than you, and that's okay. But it's understanding and reflecting on where you're at in current space and time. Where do you want to go? And so think about the right rooms. And speaking of that, there is an opportunity for you if you have not signed up already. June 5th, 2024, a great friend, mentor of mine, Faisal Susiwala, who's just out of Cambridge, Ontario, phenomenal human being, number one individual agent in the world with RE/MAX in 2023. Over 425 transactions with no team. Now he's got some people involved. A very, very unique business, over $6 million in commissions. One of the most, if not most phenomenal businesses that I've seen, and somebody that is incredibly humble, incredibly giving of time and energy, and somebody that I am blessed to work with. If you have not checked out his book, The Real Deal, Learn from the Top Realtor in Canada, I highly recommend it. Again, you've got an opportunity to get in the right room on June 5th if that's something of interest. You've got all the details on my social media channels, but I thought that I'd share that with you because that's coming up next. Might be something to consider if you want to get around some different people, but more importantly, for a very, very minor commitment, you get the opportunity to learn from the number one individual agent in the entire world. You get a complete understanding of the tools, systems, mindset, strategies, tactics, playbook on everything that Faisal does inside of his business. I was blessed and fortunate to be asked to facilitate this. I'm going to be bringing some of my own, tactics, strategies, mindset, momentum to support in that as well. And it's going to be a phenomenal day for those that are committed. So we're just under an hour. I'm super thrilled that we got that done within an hour. I'm hoping that you have found some value in this today. I'm hoping that it at least maybe, gave you some perspective in terms of, what it is that you want to create, what it is that, is working right now, what it is that might not, how you might need to go backwards a little bit in order to go forwards, doing a little bit of reflection, looking at, what it is that you need to do that you absolutely must do and that you totally can do in 2024 and beyond to create momentum in your business and your life. And sometimes we've just got to do a little bit of reviving to get back to that ultimate level of thriving. So as always, honored to serve and support you. I hope you found some value in this, and I wish you an amazing long weekend ahead, and we'll talk real soon.